Say you've got a bunch of full names with first and last name, and you're planning to do a big mail merge where you just want to say "Dear First Name." So you need to somehow separate out the first names from the last names. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just tell Excel every time there's a space, move the rest of the text to a new column? Or maybe you've got an email address of all of your customers and you want to group them by their company, but that information is stuck in the domain of the email address. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just split the cell anytime you saw an @ symbol? Or maybe you have a column with some text of like a code of some kind that's consistently formatted in a certain way, and you want to split that code up. And you wish that you could just draw a column divider between the second and third character of each cell. Well, good news, all of these actions are not only possible, they're simple with the Text to Columns tool in Excel. Now, if you've ever opened a CSV file in Excel, you've actually seen Text to Columns working. CSV stands for comma separated values. And that simple text file uses new lines for each row and commas in the place of column dividers to tell Excel when to split data into another column. That comma is what is known as a delimiter. And the Text to Columns tool allows you to treat any characters as a delimiter. There are common ones like tabs or commas, spaces or semicolons, but a delimiter can actually be any character like a dash or a slash or the @ symbol from an email address. So, in our sample file, you'll see we have 3 columns with 3 different types of data. We may want to separate a name, an email address, and a code with uniform formatting. We're going to split each of these individually using the Text to Columns tool, starting with name. As is always the case in Excel, the cardinal rule is select to effect. So first, we're going to select all the data that we want to break up. We can select the whole column and break it all up at once. Then, under the Data tab or the Data menu, you can launch the Text to Columns tool. We see it here. The first question that you'll be asked is whether you want to split your data using a delimiter or a fixed width option. We'll talk about fixed width a little later, but delimited is by far the most common option that you're going to want to use. And it basically means that there is some kind of character that you want to turn into a column divider. Note that we won't just divide the data into 2 columns at the delimiter. It will literally remove the delimiting character from the text string and turn it into a column divider. On the next screen, you'll identify what that delimiter is. Note these common options, and in our case, it's a space. We'll check the space option, and note in the preview window what is happening to Doris J. Titterington. Every space turns into a column, which isn't ideal when your text isn't uniform, so you can see how Doris's last name is going to be in the wrong column, but we're just pretending to just need the first name, so this is still going to work for us. When you hit that next button, you'll have a few options for what you want to do with the separated data. Personally, I don't see much value in the pre-formatting of the data here, except this last choice of if you want to skip the import, which is sometimes useful. Like I could select these last 2 columns and skip those so they aren't imported. But I usually just keep it as general. And I do want to change my source location to keep the original data untouched. So I'm going to change that destination value to E2. If I left this alone, it would actually overwrite my original values and any columns to the right. So I'm going to choose E2, hit Finish, and voila! Let's try this again for the email column. We'll select the data and launch the Text to Columns tool, again choosing the delimited. This time, we're going to use the other option of delimiter and put in the @ symbol. And you'll instantly see in that preview window how the second half of the email address splits out. I again want to change the destination field so I don't overwrite stuff in the next column, so I'll change the destination value to F2 and then hit Finish. Note that you still have that email suffix, but if you wanted to get just the company name, you could strip out all of that .com or .net or .co.uk stuff by running the Text to Column tools again and using the period as delimiter, then skipping the import for those other columns like so. Note that I couldn't have done these two at the same time because both the period and the @ symbol are other options. Okay, let's quickly look at the fixed width options for when you have uniform data like our client ID column. The concept of this tool is super straightforward, though it's kind of tricky to execute. You are literally just drawing where you want the column divider to go by clicking on the ruler in the preview window. So with the data selected, we're going to choose fixed width, and you see that when I click, this divider appears. If you miss your mark, you can click and drag to move that divider around, or you can double click if you want to delete that divider. Once it's in the right place, which for us is between the second and third characters, you can hit next and see the same settings as before. I'll just choose a destination cell and hit enter directly, and ta-da, we've split our data at that point. That's Excel's awesome text to columns tool. Again, super useful for instances where you've got one column containing more than one piece of information and you need to break it apart. Definitely a tool worth knowing about that I find myself using pretty often. Give it a try yourself, and we'll see you next time.